And there's a couple of other things. There's a couple of other things that would be cool to wish for, and we're going to talk about those wishful things. The first one is the case for Cass. I wore my United jersey for this exact segment, and there was the rumor, or not the rumor, but he is leaving at the end of the season from Manchester United. They announced it again to confirm it that he is leaving. And I think there's 3 places. He either goes to another European side. I think that's unlikely. Like, why would he leave United if yeah. And then Saudi and MLS. And it sounds like Inter Miami is the first movers in this game. It sounds like they want him. But what I will say is that means that he's available on a TAM because he seems interested in their project. They have 3 designated players, which means he cannot fill one of those spots. And that means that he's willing to come for TAM money. So if there was a player that you could go and get, the Galaxy were also linked to Casemiro. They seem to be interested. He's available for TAM money. I don't know what that actually means in terms of his salary, but it means that within the roster construction, you don't have to play him designated player money, which for us is a lot easier to work with because you can move off a TAM player a lot easier than a DP player. So let's start there. The case for Casemiro. Dari, you've watched him just as much as I have through this season and even into last season. What have you seen from Casemiro that makes sense for the LA Galaxy?
I mean, it's kind of the perfect type of grittiness that we need in the squad, it feels like. He has that mentality that really pushes people forward. And he just seems like a good locker room presence as well. On top of that, we all know what he can do on the field. He's a presence from set pieces. He's a presence from long range. He's a good destroyer of attacks against the squad. So, I mean, I don't see any negatives of it. He's a little older, but, I mean, people wrote him off last season, and he showed what he can do when he's in the right shape. So, I think he's more than a viable option. I think we would do a lot of good by getting him on the squad. Be massive.
Mila, you talked about, and you didn't get to talk about it in the last video about that killer mentality that's missing. Are you along the same lines there with Dari that that's what a Casemiro can bring to the side?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, being that pivotal to the success of United this season at the age he's at, after all the doubt, like to come and anchor a team like that in the Premier League, and statistically, you can see the impact he has. When he doesn't play, you guys have problems. So, like, bring that to the MLS level, bring that to here. One, I think he would just anchor our midfield. Like, everyone around him would feel more confident. So not even like in a dog type of way would he need to do that, but just his presence alone. But yeah, also the fact that he is a dog, he's willing to get into scraps, which I think we're missing a little bit. Not the type of frustration scraps where you kick out a guy's legs because you haven't been scoring goals. Yeah. I mean, like someone that's just going to put in a hard challenge, get stuck in every time, and make it known that they're in the midfield, and if you want to get by them, you're going to feel it. But he doesn't need to be fouling left and right or picking up red cards. I think he's just going to be a presence physically, mentally, and even his distribution ability would be, I think, a game changer for a midfield, especially once you bring back Puig and whatever other additions or improvements that our players that we currently have made.
Yeah, for all the reasons that you guys are talking about mentality, I mean, look, this guy's a serial winner. He did it at Madrid for a long time. He came into a United team that struggled and immediately won trophies with them. Was written off, came back, and like you said, has anchored a very good United side through a turbulent period. And those are all great, like from a killer mentality portion that we've been missing. I think that's great. But also, he's one of the best forward-playing defensive midfielders in the world. There's been this weird stigma around Casemiro that he's just this destroyer and he's got no technical ability because that's what he was asked to be at Real Madrid. But this is genuinely just a very gifted footballer. He's probably one of the greatest 6 to ever play the game. If Busquets isn't in that same era, we're talking about Casemiro the way we're talking about Busquets, right? And he'll go down as one of the greatest defensive midfielders ever. But that stigma of being a defensive midfielder has changed the way that people view him. And I think from Dari and mine's perspective, like watching him week in, week out at United, he's in the box more often than he's not. He's so forward thinking, and he does have that Brazilian flair to him. He's just also got bastard to him. And I think the stat that I saw was in the Premier League, he's in the 90th percentile for forward passes, which is ludicrous to be in that category. And like the other guys that are in the 90th percentile are some of the best creators in the world. So I think from an idea of United, or from the idea that the Galaxy don't play forward enough, they get shoehorned into this side to side bullshit. Like Casemiro stops you from doing that almost on purpose. And one of the repeatable actions that's been really good for this team so far this season has been Cerrillo's long balls to the corners. Mm-hmm. And Casemiro does that every single game for Manchester United. He's also I think he's in the 80th or 90th percentile on long balls in the Premier League. So it's direct correlation and ideas that make that move make sense. And the idea that he's a little more obtainable than the next guy that we're going to talk about, and the idea that we have a bunch of Brazilians makes a lot of sense to me. The question is can you pay him DP money? Like, are you willing to, if he was to cost DP money, and that's how we were to get him over the line compared to Inter Miami, are you willing to spend DP money on Casemiro? And you'd have to move off Peck or Paintsel. Like, that's the question. Look, if you get him on a TAM deal, you move off of whoever you need to, right? You figure that out.
Yeah.
But if you're Will Kuntz and you're offered the idea of we're bringing Casemiro, but you got to get rid of Peck or Paintsel, are you doing that?
Peck, not Paintsel.
At this current time, yes.
I'm very high on this one, but I'm going to save that thought for the next guy because I don't think I do it just because of his age.
Well, if it's a choice between this guy or the next guy, then no. But
no. But what I'm saying is I think that if I'm going to, I don't think I'm willing to depart with Peck or Paintsel for Casemiro.
That's fair. Yeah.
Because I think it's just a harder maneuver. Look, I think that Casemiro would be fantastic. And if it happened tomorrow, I wouldn't be mad, right? Like if they ended up doing that swap, I just don't know if that makes sense from the idea of wanting to be consistently good for a long period of time. Casemiro is very win now, but he doesn't have a whole, like he has a lot left in the tank, but not a whole lot, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like your window becomes like it's the short season with Casemiro and then the next year. And then you're probably.
Counter that, sorry to interrupt, but like to counter that, I feel like so much can change in just one summer in MLS. That's true. I feel like it's worth the risk to bring in a player like him. You get the right squad behind him. And even now, if it's early enough to where he can really make an impact and we can do something this season with the addition of him. So, I mean, I think he can have a bit more of an impact, that be it maybe 2 or 3 years only. But I think it can be a pretty big impact and can set up a good groundwork.
Yeah, I'm kind of with him on this one, especially since we have Cerrillo right now, and it's not like we're in any rush to get him out the club. So you don't want to make him feel displaced by bringing in a Casemiro. But if you bring Casemiro in as a mentor almost,
yeah,
then you can keep both. You can have Casemiro bring up Cerrillo, give him the tips on how to play the 6 properly, and then we have a very good Cerrillo that will be playing still, because Casemiro right now is playing 60, 70 minutes on average.
Yeah, in the Prem. Yeah.
So a year later, that's probably going to go down a bit, which is fine if he's that dominant in the games and Cerrillo is able to come on fresh legs and also be dominant. So it's just one of those things. And like in the long term, we have to have plans. We can't just it cannot be a win nothing, like you were saying, in my opinion. But we can plan with him. It doesn't necessarily have to be a no-go just because he doesn't have any long-term future at the club.
No, yeah, I agree with that. And look, like I said, if it happens tomorrow, I'll be very happy. I really do think that Casemiro is a game changer in that sense. I guess if I'm pushing all my chips into the table, it's because of this next guy. And I think that's where we should segue to the next guy.